Awesome. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, right. Welcome to GrrCON, which I found out recently doesn't stand for Grand Rapids. Thought it did. Like, made sense to me, right? I found out a long time ago that what makes sense to me doesn't necessarily make sense to anybody else. That's why I have kids. I can warp them so that what I say makes sense to them too. My goal is 2 years of counseling for every year they live with me. By the way, if you have a wife who gets pregnant, my recommendation is do not tell your wife while she's pregnant that you are going to teach the children that the teeth they get are the only set they ever get, and if they fall out, they'll be toothless for the rest of their life. With the plan of freaking them out when they're 5, right? And that first tooth fall, oh man, I told you to take better care of those, right? Yeah, my wife freaked out. One of my analysts at Secure Ideas, he just had a son, and we have convinced him that in about a month, 2 months, we're going to go out into this wooded lot, build a wrecked spaceship, and take pictures of him pulling his son out of the wrecked spaceship. So when the kid's like 15 and going through an identity crisis, he can find the superhero pictures. So I read about it online. I was like, that is awesome. And so we convinced Andrew to do it. I don't know who gets to build the rocket ship, though. So we're going to talk about ethics. Ooh. We're going to talk about how we need to fix what I see as a problem in the industry. This is not going to be a technical talk. If you want technical, we can BS later, right? I enjoy technical, but I see a problem, and it's something that I've seen grow as time goes by, and I think that we need an answer. And I'd like to believe that I have an answer, but I'm not that smart. And so I'm really just presenting this to say, hey, here's the problem, here's a solution. What do you guys think? Because it's a very complex concern. So before we get started, who the heck, whoop, wrong button. What the heck? Well, that doesn't work. That's why. If you're at the last slide, the next slide stops the presentation. Damn it. That's the problem with putting the same slide at the beginning and the end, right? So who the heck am I? I'm Kevin Johnson, not that that's really earth-shattering. I am the founder and CEO, we also call me head nerd, at Secure Ideas. We're a consulting firm out of Jacksonville, Florida, but we got staff in Charlotte, Tulsa, and Salt Lake City. And we're hiring if anybody is looking for a job. But I think that in this industry, everybody is hiring, right? I got a kick out of it. We were just at DerbyCon, and like every single booth had a sign. Hiring now, hiring now. It's a seller's market, right? I'd like to make $4 million a year. No problem here. By the way, I was kidding about that. So I'm also IANS faculty. I'm a course author and instructor. I've taught for SANS, Black Hat, OWASP, all over the place. I can say I teach worldwide because I went to Australia once. It's like Jacksonville International Airport. They have one flight to the Bahamas. So they're international, man, right? A whole bunch of cool stuff about me. I'm a podcaster. I'm a co-host of the Professionally Evil Perspective. I'm an open source project lead. And what my wife deems the nerdiest thing she's ever heard, I am a member of the 501st. For the people who don't know what the 501st is, thank you. I'm glad somebody knows. We are a Star Wars costuming charity group, right? So we dress up in screen accurate, we'd like to say realistic, but we know they're not, Star Wars costumes, and go out and raise money for charity. We visit children's hospitals, things like that. I've got an Imperial Guard, which is so hot, and I don't mean good hot, I mean like sweat hot, and a TIE pilot. And I got the 60 packs of fake hair the day before yesterday to start my Chewbacca. So, yes, 7'2", covered in hair. Now the issue is, and I want to know you guys' opinion if I should do this, everybody else I know that has built a Wookiee, which is not a large number of people, knew a hairdresser that they could go to and get the costume trimmed. I don't know any hairdressers. So I'm thinking that I can just show up at Supercuts. Right? This is the best idea I can come up with. Like, hey, is it $15 to trim this? Right? Exactly, you gotta film it. So yeah, so I'm building a Chewbacca, which, it's a good thing I have kids, because Brennan and Sarah will be latch hooking. Fake hair everywhere, right? We unpacked all the hair the other day, and it's just like, what the hell did I get into? I mean, it's just lots and lots of fake hair. I've never seen fake hair before. I mean, I've obviously never used fake hair, but even though I may have to at some point, it's just weird. So that's me. Not very exciting. I'm a nerd. I do lots of nerdy things, right? And you will hear about my kids a lot. I think this slide says exactly what I feel the problem is, right? For the people who don't know, this is Robert Graham, Errata Rob on Twitter, runs ErrataSec. And Robert is somebody that I have a lot of respect for, or I had a lot of respect for. And then Shell Shock came out, right? And I'm not even going to get into the hype of a vulnerability that has its own logo. Not sure where that started. I know, Heartbleed. But why? Really? You need a logo? But Shell Shock came out, and almost immediately, Robert posted this. And he posted a picture of his Wireshark screen, which I will pick on somebody for using Wireshark instead of TCP dump, but that's just me. I'm judgmental like that. You need a GUI, whatever. But as he was scanning the internet, and I hope you heard the italics and quotes around scanning, because what he was doing was he was exploiting the flaw. If he found that you were vulnerable to shell shock, the way he found out was by running ping on your system and pinging himself, a set of IP addresses he has. And when I talked to him about it, his answer was, well, it's okay. My intent is good. I'm doing research, right? These people need to know they're vulnerable. Like, oh, cool. So you're notifying them? Well, no. So you're publishing a list of the sites that you found that were vulnerable? No. So you're going to give us results and tell us how many systems you found that were vulnerable? No. I'm going to post a blog post with a bunch of quotes that says, hey, reporters, if you want more information, here's some quotes you can use. So in my opinion, what we've got is somebody who is exploiting random servers on the internet for attention. And while I can pick on Robert for this, the reality is a large part of our industry has moved to this name and shame. Let's bully other people, which I find quite humorous because most of the people in this industry that I've talked to were bullied themselves. I know I was, right? And I joke around about, yeah, my bully still takes my lunch money every day, but damn, he makes a good Subway sandwich, right? But I hear from the front row, it's funny because it's true. You're right, sadly. So, but we've gotten to this point where we just feel like we can do this. And Rob actually has a blog post. And the one quote, and I'd like to say that I'm taking it out of context, but I'm not. The one quote is that security researchers need to be free from the constraints of the law. Yeah. That line resonated with me. It's like, really? We need to be free from the constraints of the law? Huh. Would that be the law about punching people in the face? Because I'd like to be free from that law quite often, right? Is that free from the law about shooting people? Oh, I know, Kevin, you're going to extremes. Yes, I am. Because while Robert believes that running ping is fine, it doesn't hurt anything, right? And that's what we hear a lot, right? I'm doing this for the safety of the internet. I'm doing it for the kids, man. Yeah, you are. Except you just ran an arbitrary command on somebody's server. And while I trust that you were being good, I believe you when you say that you didn't do anything else. How many people here have had to do incident response? Yeah, me too. How many people here had to do breach notification? Right? If you ran that command on my server, I have to be able to show my management that that's the only command you ran. And if I can't prove that, proving a negative, I have to treat it as if it was a real breach, right? Just 3 days ago, a hospital in North Carolina had to do a breach notification because they think a doctor's email address was compromised. They believe the email wasn't read, but the account was used to spam people. So they had to notify every single patient, current and past, that there was a potential breach, that their data may have been compromised. Because somebody compromised an account and sent spam. That's a breach notification. This would trigger a breach notification. And I know the answer, right? Well, would they even notice? Because most people wouldn't even notice. You're right, most people wouldn't notice. But their piss-poor security doesn't excuse your doing it, right? But at the same time, while I can sit here and rant about this, the reality is we do have to figure out what vulnerabilities exist. We do have a responsibility to go out there and say, this is bad, whatever this happens to be. This is unsafe. And how do we fix that? How do we balance those diametrically opposed needs? I don't know. I don't. I have some ideas myself, but I'm not that smart. And I know I'm not that smart. But I know that the security field is growing, right? I love this picture. I want to know what sales guy convinced them they needed that part of the fence. Right? No, it'll be good. When I moved to Jacksonville, my wife and I, we moved up from Fort Lauderdale, we moved to Jacksonville, we got an apartment, and one of the biggest things that they advertised for this apartment, they said it to us about 5 times alone on the initial phone call where we were calling to see, like, what's the rent, what's this, what do we have to do, was that it was a gated apartment complex. You had to have a code to get in. You had to know somebody. You know, everything was gated, it was secure, it was wonderful. And they were right. There was a gate. But it wasn't a fenced apartment complex. There was a gate. And that was it. Right? And when we pulled up to this apartment complex that we had already agreed to sign into, we were getting there to sign the lease, we pull up to this gate that had pillars on either side of it and nothing else. And I looked at my wife and I said, hey, it's gated. And so when I went inside, I said to the guy behind the counter, you know, at the desk who was giving us the lease, I said, dude, this is a gated community, not a fenced community, don't you think? And his answer was, have you ever tried to drive a U-Haul over grass? What does that have to do with anything? They can't do it, man. U-Hauls won't go over grass. And I actually asked the guy, which probably was why we only lived there a year, how do you remember to breathe regularly? It was just stupid. And then I drove my U-Haul over the grass to show him you could. Because my apartment was right there on the corner, right? But we're growing as an industry, and we hear calls, Alan Paller, Congress, everybody is saying we have a shortage. We need 250,000 cyber professionals, right? How many people have heard that? I will point out, I did start the talk by saying we're hiring, right? I don't think there's a shortage. I just think we're looking in the wrong places. But we are a growing field, and we've got tons of different things. We talk about pen testing, we talk about hacking, we talk about exploitation, and I know that's the cool stuff, right? Nobody wants to do a talk. Dude, I built the coolest map of that network. And talk about it for an hour. That would be boring. Not that this is any better, but we talk about exploitation, we talk about hacking, we talk about the cool shit we do. And we pretend to be rock stars, right? Maybe pop stars. And we go out there, but we ignore the fact that there's another side. There's a blue side. There's the defense, right? Maybe every once in a while we'll talk about them, right? Whoa, blue team testing, purple team testing. We got to do good stuff. And we do. But the reality is we don't really think about it very often. We don't think about the people who are monitoring. We don't think about the people who are doing forensics, right? And we talk about how do we grow security people. I just had this debate with somebody, and I used the word debate loosely. Debate on the internet, right? Deciding who can go the lowest, fastest. It's like PCI. But, did I say that out loud? Oh, man. You must be this tall to ride the internet. We talk about growing people. And I just had this conversation, this debate, this discussion online with this guy who said, but Kevin, if we aren't allowed to port scan anybody we want, how do we expect to encourage other people to get into the field? And I went, what? Port scanning? And this guy actually said, publicly even, the way he got excited about security was by end-mapping random targets. Now, I don't want to say anything against Fyodor. I don't want to say anything, or Gordon. I don't want to say anything against Nmap. It's an awesome tool. I use it all the time. But if that's what gets you excited, get a life. Yes, that port is open. Oh my gosh. What the hell? But this guy honestly believed that we needed to have the ability to port scan whoever we wanted, because if we didn't do that, people wouldn't join the field. I have one answer for that. Bullshit. Because how many people here got into security because of Nmap? Yeah, nobody. I was waiting for somebody to go, me. But seriously, and by the way, I've never said port scanning the internet should be wrong. Right? I think exploitation is where we cross the line. Right? And that's the problem, is we need to have a line. But we need to grow people. We need to encourage people. And the way not to get in this field is to get arrested. Right? We go the Kevin Mitnick route. Get arrested, start $1 million career. Do you know how many people have talked to me about that? I've actually had kids in college say to me that they joined Anonymous so that they could get into information security. And the first time I heard it, I'm like, what? Huh? And their answer was, yeah, they were going to hack some stuff. They were going to get arrested. It was going to build their name. And when they got out, right? That's how I became a firearms dealer. I shot a whole bunch of people. And when I got released, they let me sell guns. Like, how did this logic become, and I hesitate to say it, but valid, right? We have people who honestly believe that the way to make a name for themselves is to hack somebody and put it online. Look, I stole credit card numbers from Symantec because they suck. Really? Well, they might. I don't know. I don't run Symantec. I have a Mac. It's virus-free. The worst part is somebody's going to walk out here going, that idiot thought Macs couldn't get viruses. But we have tons of people that we need to encourage, that we can build up, right? We have QA people. How many people here are developers and feel safe? You can say it. We'll pick on you later. But I was a developer. Those are some of the best people to encourage into security. Because they're building the shit we depend on. I got kids. I want my daughters to grow up in a world that they don't have to worry about SQL injection. We've known about that shit for over 20 years. And it's not hard to fix. But we don't seem to do it. Right? And when I talk to people, when I talk to these QA people, when I talk to developers, we've got a bad reputation. You say security is getting involved, and the answer is, oh, damn, they're going to stop what we're doing. They're going to cause us problems, those jerks. Right? And we do it to ourselves. We wear black. Right? Jeans. We come out here like badasses because we know how to use Metasploit. I'm cool. You know, there's this really awesome presentation just recently by Ruben, Mono Paul's son, Ruben. He's 9. And he demonstrated an interpreter. He demonstrated Metasploit to people. And it was awesome. Right? And I'm biased because Mono is a good friend of mine, right? He's a guy I'd let watch my kids. That's always my standard, right? Would I let you watch my kids? You? No. But, told you, man, sitting in the front row sucks. You can. You haven't yet, though. But, you know, and he's showing Meterpreter and he's showing Metasploit, and that is beautiful and awesome. But that's because his Father gets it, right? I talk to QA people, I talk to developers, I talk to system admins, and all we are assholes that come in and beat up on stuff. Heck, it's my fault too, right? I used to tell people I have the best job in the world. I get to come in and tell you suck and leave. Because that is what my job is. But it's supposed to produce good recommendations, ways to fix it. The majority of my job isn't you suck. The majority of my job is this is how we can get better. That's what we need to promote. But by going out on the internet and saying, look at all these jackasses who didn't patch Heartbleed. Look at this horrible vulnerability that has its own logo. Hell, I'm waiting. I looked around earlier. I was waiting for a vulnerability booth. This conference, sponsored by Shell Shock. But that's what we should do. we absolutely, right? You know that? Let's do it. We'll sponsor it. We'll make up a vulnerability. This one's bad. You know, we see lots of concerns. Biggest one everybody asks. How many times have you been asked by somebody, are we secure? And you giggle, right? I do. I was doing a pen test from home one day. I work out of my house a lot. We have an office, but home is nice, right? I'm working out of my house. My wife had somebody over, and let's just say that the pen test was going better than it should, right? So I was giggling a little bit. So I always hate on-sites, because giggling at them while you're there is not polite. And the lady that was at the house, she was helping my wife out with some stuff, and she said, wow, your husband really seems to be enjoying his job. What's he do? And because it's normal at my house, my wife said, he's hacking a bank. Yeah. It's like, wow. I got to spend an hour convincing that lady she shouldn't call the FBI. I will point out that I convinced her not to call the FBI. That shouldn't have been possible. Right? No, it's okay. I have permission. I can't show you that permission because I'm under an NDA. I can't even tell you who I'm hacking. I just know what bank I'm taking my money out of. But, you ever make decisions based on your penetration testing? That's how we chose a dental provider for the company, dental insurance provider. We had two we were looking at. I taught a class on web pen testing. One of the companies, two guys in the front row worked there. I said, hey, we're hiring you, done. I'm not saying they were better, just they paid attention, right? But we want to know, are we secure? Are we responding correctly? Are we looking correctly? You know, we have this whole effort about let's reform the CFAA. You heard that one? There's actually an entire website. What is it? C4SR, like Coalition for Security Researchers? How many people here consider themselves a security researcher in some way? So I got one hand. Really? Because on the internet, everybody is. Do you have a lab coat? No? Do you have a hypothesis? You have multiple hypotheses. Good answer, right? Like we have security researchers out there, right? Do we need to reform the CFAA? I would say no. And the reason I would say no is, as we'll talk about in a minute, I don't think the law is the route we should go. I do believe the CFAA sucks. I do believe the CFAA was written by a whole bunch of people who don't even know how to turn on email, right? Who decided to legislate technology. That's like legislating medicine, right? Would you go to your senator and have an organ transplant? I wouldn't. And I like my senator, I think. You know? But we're talking about legislating what we're doing. And the question is, how do we do this, right? Do we have the right people? Do we have the right things to fix? And the question is, I don't know. I know that we've got some good people. I know that we've got really good people. And by good, you can take whatever meaning you want for that. I mean, good is in skilled. There are people that I talk to, and my brain actually leaks out of my ear a little bit. They're so smart, right? I have been blessed, I believe, at having a successful company that was bootstrapped, which sounds way more fancy than accidentally started, which is how Secure Ideas happened. Right? I quit a job, started another job, got asked by people, hey, can you do some stuff on the side? I asked my new boss, can I? He said yes. We had a company, right? I'm now managing people. When the hell did that happen? But I have people who come and listen to me talk, which, by the way, thanks. Not sure why you did, but okay, right? Because I'm not that smart. I stand on the shoulders of greatness. I am able to do what I do because somebody else did it first. And they shared. We have a belief of openness in this group. As a matter of fact, the minute somebody starts to say, oh no, I can't share, we all blast them, right? We have this powerful lobby, even though we don't talk to politicians very well, right? We blast them, and it changes. And the question is, do we have the right people looking? And we've got people who are like, hey, I can do that. And we know that the majority of companies out there are not doing security well. Right? Can you say breaches? We hear about a new one every day, and every single one of them is the biggest one yet. Until we start looking at facts, but don't let facts get in the way of a good article. Right, Brian? We start to go out there and look at this, and we say, that company isn't doing it right. I just had it happen a couple days ago. My youngest daughter, Sarah, was accepted into the Galactic Academy. Because yes, I'm making her as nerdy as I am. So she has a Jawa costume. We took pictures. We submitted them to the Galactic Academy. She got accepted. That means her picture goes online. And she was really excited because she doesn't know any better yet. But she was really excited. And so I posted about it on Facebook. And within 5 minutes, one of the people I'm connected to posted back, should I mention the SQL injection flaw on that website? My answer is, no, you shouldn't. So I asked, very simple question. Did you notify them? Did you tell them that they were vulnerable to SQL injection? Because that's the only reason I can see randomly attacking some website you didn't have permission to, right? And his answer back was, no, I don't notify. Why not? What did you accomplish then? Right? And his answer was that this is the wrong forum to have this conversation. Why? Because it's public? But did you forget that when you posted that shit on my wall? Right? It's the wrong forum to have the conversation. So my question is, what is the right forum? Because you just attacked somebody. A volunteer group that's raising money for charity, that's trying to do good. Should they be more secure? Absolutely. My kid's information is in that website. Should they have fixed that problem? Absolutely. Did you wave your dick around because you were able to find SQL injection? Yes. And by the way, not to be rude, it's not that big. Because my 8-year-old daughter can find the same SQL injection. It doesn't take a genius. But she knows the ethics of it. She knows the permission of it. So my answer is, did you do good? And that's what I think we all need to ask ourselves. Let's forget the laws for a second. Not that I'm saying we should be free from the chilling constraints of the law, but let's ignore the law for a second. I think there's a very simple question to ask ourselves. Did I do good? Not, can I sleep at night? That's the question a lot of people ask, right? Did you sleep well after you did that? Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer slept well. I sleep like crap. Right? And I didn't eat anybody. But did you do good? Did your doing this fix something? By the way, in case you're wondering, I reached out to the group and I'm working with them to see what we can do to fix the problem. Right? But did you do good? And the answer is no. All you did was wave it around a little bit instead of buying a Camaro. And you didn't fix anything. And that, to me, is one of the biggest problems we have. And in a lot of cases, we go further, right? Instead of fixing it, we actually exploit it and blast it everywhere. Here's a good example. Or I say a bad example. Some guy, and I'm blanking on the guy's name. Is it up there? No. Dang it. He's a Turkish security researcher. I think that means he hacked them during Thanksgiving. But, okay, I know that Turkey is a real country. That's another thing people will walk away with, right? So I always find it funny what things get quoted from my talks. It's never the things I wanted quoted, right? But this Turkish security researcher, which I'm not sure how you get that title other than by giving it to yourself, right? He found out that the Apple Developer Network had a problem, and he pulled 100,000 records. And He actually posted a blog post about it and said, I pulled these records to verify that the flaw was real. I was trying to be helpful. I got to wonder, did you really need to pull 100,000 records to prove the flaw was real? You're saying, no, you're right. You didn't. I mean, if you had to pull records, let's not argue having to pull something, right? Wouldn't one record have found out that it was a real flaw? Wouldn't have running a select count star have found out that it was a real flaw? I could have grabbed 100,000 records, but I didn't. Because they did this, Apple pulled the developer network offline for more than a week. As somebody who was writing code at the time and couldn't get access to some of the stuff I needed for documentation, let me just say it pissed me off a little bit, right? And do you know what this accomplished? It made Apple mad. It made a whole bunch of developers mad. It actually made a whole bunch of developers care less about security. Because we're the assholes that pulled the developer network down to prove a point. Oh, when it got this Turkish guy some attention. Maybe that means he gets a job. I don't know. Whatever. Right? So what happened? He thought he was cool. But he posts on Twitter. This is where I think it's good, right? This is definitely not a hack attack. I am not a hacker. I do security research. Right? That's good because this guy assumes Apple's following him. Because he didn't even tweet Apple's Twitter ID, which, by the way, is all over their damn website. So it's not like he couldn't find it. Maybe that's the record he should have pulled. And I don't know about you, but when I've been in the middle of incident response, I've always checked Twitter to see if some guy told me he was being nice, just to be, oh, it's okay, we don't have to call anybody. We don't have to do any more research, because he told us it wasn't a hack. Right? So it must be all good. And this guy learned his lesson because, what was it, a week later? He decided to crash Google Play because they had a flaw. Well, you can't pick on the Apple fanboys alone. Let's go after Android, right? And he crashed Google Play. Again, not a hack. He's a researcher, so it must be okay. I don't know why you got upset. I don't know why it caused problems. But this is exactly what we've been saying to people. When we have people like Rob who say, this exploit shouldn't cause any problems. My answer always is, how do you know? How many people here have been responsible for a system that if you looked at it wrong, it fell over? Right? Yeah! I still have bruises on this side from where my pager would go off and my wife would elbow me to wake me up because that system crashed again. I have a system, and you always hear it, right? I don't know why it crashed. That change shouldn't have caused a problem. Right? Hell, I've said that to the CEO of Blue Cross of Florida. Dude, my change should have caused a problem. Yeah, it's been down for 2 weeks, and we've ignored my change because I didn't think it would cause a problem. Right? Turned out it was a problem. What took us finding out that it was a problem was an IBM flew 4 people in to see what was going on with our system. And one of their people surprisingly said, hey, who made that change over there? Me. Was it documented? No, it shouldn't have caused a problem. That's why you're down. No. Change it back. See what I said? Bloop, right back up. What the hell? To this day, I don't know why that caused a problem. You want to know what? Neither does IBM. The consultant who found it said to me, I don't know why it breaks things, but it does. Is that documented anywhere? Documented? No. Right? And we talk about ethics. How many people here are ethical? Come on, everybody should have raised their hand. Right? That's a good point. Ethics depend on your viewpoint, right? There are things that I feel is ethical that is not legal, right? I'll be blunt, and I know I'm being recorded, so it's okay. I'll be blunt. You touch my daughters, I kill you, right? Plain and simple. I have guns. And I don't mean that as a threat. Wait, yeah, I do. Right? You touch my daughters, I'm going to make your life miserable at the very least. I had somebody ask me once, what was my line? as a hacker, right? Because I try to do the right thing. I hack with permission. I have a contract, right? What would cause me to breach that contract? What would cause me to cross the line into black hat, right? Whatever you want to call it. And I said, you know what? I don't know. I know I have a line. Because anybody who says they would never do anything illegal is full of it, right? I know I have a line. I just don't know what it is. Because thank God, I've never had to cross it. Never been put in that position. But I do believe my daughters would push me over it, right? I worry about the day that my daughters start to date. Whoever they decide to date, whatever, right? I'm not going to judge. Yeah, I am. Right? And I'm not going to do the whole cleaning my gun as the person comes to pick them up, right? But if you don't think I'm going to friend them on Facebook, you're wrong. Right? I could see me figuring out their GPA. Legally, of course. I don't know how, but let's just go with it, right? Background checks. What's your social security? Don't worry, I got it. But, right? It's like when the person comes to the house to pick them up and I say, hey, just so you know, I think it's really bad. You flunked history. I didn't flunk history. Yeah, you did now. Bring her home on time. Right? Just going to show them what I do for a living. But our ethics are what we think they are. We all have an ethical area. And what you think is ethical is different than what I think is ethical, different what you think is ethical. And we may have common ground. I don't know, I hope, I don't believe that there's anybody in this room that believes that arbitrarily killing random people is okay. Right? I don't think anybody in this room, I hope, believes that being a serial killer is fine. Good. I agree with you. My ethics say serial killing is bad. Right? But do you believe it's ethical to put a single quote in a form field to see if you get a database error message back? Because there are people I know that think that is perfectly fine with their ethical framework. How many people here have heard of the Certified Ethical Hacker certification, right? Yeah. I have it. Well, it's lapsed. So I'm a lapsed ethical hacker, I guess. I don't know. I took that test back in like 2003, 2004. I took it as a joke. I'm not saying it's a joke. Okay, it is. But I took that test. There wasn't a single ethics question on the test. And I wondered. I've been told that recently they've added ethics questions. But it was like, really, you call me a certified ethical hacker, but you didn't ask me what my ethics were. How did you determine that ethicalness? Right? That I didn't cheat on the test? How do you know? It was done online from my house. It was web-based. Let's not talk about how secure the testing engine was. But what are your ethics? What do you think is right? And us as an industry, we don't have a standard. GIAC has an ethical standard. ISC squared has an ethical standard. ISSA has an ethical standard, but they don't match. How many people here have some ISC squared certification? Okay, every single person who raised their hand just lost their certification. And the reason you lost your certification is ISC squared says dealing with known criminals, dealing with known hackers is a violation of the ethics. You're talking to me, aren't you? Ah, so you're learning from a bad guy. I don't know the definition because they haven't clarified it, right? We have a guideline that says this is bad. So is it bad to read that blog about shell shock where somebody used it to compromise Yahoo and kill a process? I'm getting CPE credits, so it must be allowed. Awesome. Do you know that I submitted CPE credits every time I taught for SANS? And I just recently found out that those CPE credits shouldn't have counted. I didn't realize that. But every single one of them was audited and approved. Probably just lost my certification myself. But, right? The question becomes, what is okay? What does dealing with mean? And oh, by the way, in this industry, we have to talk to black hats. We have to know what attacks are happening, what exploits are happening, what vulnerabilities are happening, and that means that sometimes we deal with scummy people. Heck, I've hired scummy people. None of them have a record. They just don't bathe as often as they should. I don't know, right? But what does it mean? And we need to figure this out. This is one of the main points that I believe we as an industry need to figure out because we don't know what is okay. You look at Snowden, which has now become a marketing term. I actually saw a presentation by a vendor that said, "Do you want to be Snowdened?" I want to know, how do you become a verb? Right? And at a previous talk I said, like, I want Johnson to be a verb. And then I realized saying, "You want to be Johnsoned?" is a verb, and it's not appropriate. But Snowden became a verb, right? And then we've got Weave, who I believe that if Weave was here on fire, I wouldn't pee on him to put him out. He's that much of a scumbag. Yet we as an industry jumped behind him when he got arrested. How dare they? They arrested him for hacking. He wasn't hacking. He was changing an integer on a request. He should be allowed to do that. Personally, I agree with that sentence. I also think that dumping all that data was bad. I'm conflicted. Right? He's like Al Capone to me. Al Capone got arrested for tax evasion. Right? He got arrested for doing something that probably shouldn't be illegal. But I think he's a guy who should be in jail. Right? And I think he proved it himself when he went to a non-extradition country. Right? I'm out. I'm going to Beirut. Who picks Beirut? I mean, I've never been to Beirut. It might be beautiful, but everything I've heard about it is bad. I don't know. But how many people here look at Anonymous and go, "Yeah! They're doing good work"? There's some. How many people here look at Jester and say, "Yeah, stay frosty"? Because I'll tell you, as somebody who is against jihadists, whatever the definition of that is, I don't like terrorists. So the Jester is cool to me. But what the Jester is doing is no different than what Weave was doing. And how do we decide which of those is okay? How do we decide where it's fine? And what I've been told is intent. And we already talked about certifications, right? How many people here are certified somehow? How many people here are certified application security specialists? I like that acronym. I'm a certified ass. I used to work with a guy. He was an application security salesman. I told him all the time it fit. But all of these certifications, right? We hear you have to have a CISSP to get this job because it's a technical cert. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Right? We get GX certifications. How many more acronyms can they come up with for certs? Right? And all of these certs have ethical boards. They have ethical guidelines that you have to follow to maintain it. And now we've gone into the bug bounty idea, right? As a group, as an organization, we're going to say, you are allowed to hack me. Here are the constraints. And you know what? I think bug bounties are an interesting idea. I believe that bug bounties are good for organizations that have a strong security process already. If your bug bounty is rewarding cross-site scripting on your website in the search field, you fail. Right? If your bug bounty is awarding somebody who found that your dev server is exposed to the internet, you epically fail. But if you're an organization, and I can't believe I get to say this, but an organization like Microsoft, which is a group we used to make fun of. You run Windows? Fool? Right? But Microsoft turned around. And you know what did it? Money. Hey, we're going to start losing business unless we get better. Right? And they said, let's go. We're going to march down this path, and we're going to get there. It's going to take some time, it's going to take effort, and it's going to cost us something. But damn it, we're going to do it. And you know what? They did. Do they still screw up? Yes. Who doesn't? Heck, I'm amazed I haven't fallen off this stage yet. But they're doing good. And they've built a strong procedure. They've built a strong SDLC, whatever you want to call it, right? They are now a model we hold other people to. Adobe, please pay attention. And they have a bug bounty. That's awesome. because they're paying out real money. What was it, $100,000 for one of their bugs? Damn, that's good, right? And they're paying out real money. But at the same point, can we expect mom and pop's florist shop to have a bug bounty? No. And we have bug bounty complaints. We had a guy just, about a year ago, went out to Yahoo. They have a bug bounty program. And he thought, yes, I'm going to make some money from Yahoo, because they're really still around. Can you believe it? But, actually said that one day. I was teaching a class. I'm like, yeah, you can do all this Google hacking on Yahoo, but who uses Yahoo? And this guy in the back of the room raised his hand. I said, really, you use Yahoo? He's like, yeah. I said, do you work for Yahoo? He said, yeah. I made him show me a business card because I didn't believe him. But he did. But he was a bug bounty program from Yahoo. And he found a vulnerability on a section of their site that wasn't part of the bug bounty. And he notified them. And Yahoo said, you know what? That's not part of our bug bounty, but thank you very much. And here's a t-shirt and a coffee mug, a stick. I don't know what they sent him. Some swag, right? We'll all do tricks for cool swag. And he bitched on the internet. He posted a blog post because the internet makes everybody very, very powerful when they complain. And the security community rallied behind him. Yes, Yahoo is evil. How dare they not pay him? Well, of course they dare. He broke the rules. They gave him definitely defined targets. He knew that. He even acknowledged the fact that he had stepped outside of those targets. The benefit they gave him was not giving him a pair of silver bracelets. Because the reality is he broke the law. But instead we raged at them. How dare you? How could you not pay him? He did you a favor. Yeah, he did them a favor. They had to call out their incident response team. They had to do forensics. They had to determine that he only did what he said he did. That cost them money, right? They had to do a breach notification because they were breached, right? Yeah, how dare they? How dare they not arrest him, right? And this is what they deal with. This is what we deal with, right? I already talked through most of this. How do you distinguish a tester from an attacker? Because I'll tell you right now, if I ever do cross the line, if I ever do say, screw this, let's go, right? And the FBI figures it out and comes to my house and kicks in the door with their really scary guns, my answer is going to be, I was doing research. I don't know about you, but I'm a researcher. Oh yeah, I stole that money from that bank, but I was going to give it back. I'm a researcher, right? How do you tell the difference? How do you tell the difference as the person managing the IPS or the IDS or the logs or the firewall? How do you determine the difference between the guy who dumped your database with SQL Map because he was researching and the guy who dumped your database with SQL Map because he was selling the credit card numbers he stole? How do you tell? You don't. You have to respond to both the same way. And that's the part we ignore. That's the part we conveniently forget, right? I'll tell you right now, if my bank announces a bug bounty program, I'm moving all my money. I will. Because I've looked at my bank. They're not that secure, right? It's like my credit card. How many people here believe that their credit card can't be compromised? I had a credit card compromised, right? I got a new one. I hadn't even received the new one yet, and I got notified by the bank it had been compromised. I said, so you guys got hacked? They're like, no, not us. Then how do you, like, what the hell? The card hasn't even arrived here yet. We got compromised. Okay. So one of the things that I think we need to look at, and this is a debated topic, and that's licensing. How did you become a pen tester? How did you become a security researcher, right? The one guy who raised his hand, right? How do you get to call yourself a security researcher? And we look at this, and you know what? When I was younger, which was a long damn time ago, I used to think licensing? No. I don't want to be licensed. I want to do what I want to do. I want to be free. Because nobody understands what I do like I do. Now I'm starting to fall down on the side of, maybe we should be. Maybe there should be some type of licensing. But here's the issue with that, right? That's the government. Ooh. I'm not sure the government's ready for it. I'm not even sure if it helps, right? Because there's still doctors that kill patients. Tampa Hospital cut off the wrong leg. How do you cut off the wrong leg? Did you notice there was nothing wrong with it? Well, I guess he doesn't like this one. And then again, how do you apologize for that one? Right? Dude, we got to do this again because, oops. Left, right. I didn't know whether they were talking about my viewpoint, your viewpoint, whatever. Right? I feel bad for that guy who woke up, right? I'm like, seriously, I'm making fun of it, but damn. Right? You're all freaked out because you're going to lose a leg. That's a serious thing. I'm not that coordinated, but having a leg gone would probably make that worse. Right? And they cut off the wrong leg. So licensing obviously didn't help there. And there are some scummy lawyers out there, aren't there? They'll represent anybody. They'll do anything. They're licensed. Hell, locksmiths are licensed. Right? And anybody and their brother can get a car, write Papa-Lock on the side, and be a locksmith. But does it help? And I think the answer is yes, I do. I think it helps because it gives a standard. Right? I look at CREST in the UK. If you want to do a pen test of a government site in the UK, you have to be CREST certified. At least you did. I don't know if they still do it, but I believe they do. Right? And all the CREST certification says is it doesn't say you're good at what you do. It says you're going to follow a certain level of standards. You're going to do what we believe is really a pen test. You're not going to run Nessus and change the logo. Because you've seen that pen test, haven't you? Right? Had a guy once ask me for a pen test proposal. I sent him a proposal. Yeah, $23,000. Right? The guy wrote back and said, oh, Kevin, I'm going to have to go with somebody else. Really? Yeah, because you're really expensive. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not that expensive, but okay. And I said to the guy, okay, fine, may I ask? I'm just curiosity, right? Trying to do some research for the next time I do a pen test. What did we lose to? The guy's like, oh, I found a guy. I'll do a pen test for $400. Of your entire network? Yeah. Guy called me about a month later and said, hey, I need you to come and do a pen test. The guy forgot to change the Nessus logo on the report. But licensing does that. The problem is, I don't want the government to do it. And here's where I think we have a solution. And I don't know, I registered InfoSec Bar because I didn't want somebody to do porn on it or something, but there's nothing there. If you go out there, it's just a park website right now. But I think the idea is we need to regulate ourselves. And this is not a popular decision, but I think that if we don't regulate ourselves, we're going to be regulated. And then we are going to deal with that congressman that asked if Guam would tip over if we put more soldiers on the island. Yeah, that's actually a comment a senator or representative, I don't remember which, actually said. He asked the general that was being interviewed, well, yeah, but if we put more soldiers there, what's the risk of the island tipping? Now, he claims today that that was a joke. I'll go back to my bullshit comment from earlier, right? Really, you asked if an island would tip over, and we're going to let you regulate us. I personally think everybody who voted for him should be shot, but that's a different story, right? And I don't even know what party he was in, so you can make that up if you'd like. But if we don't regulate ourselves, we're going to be regulated. Same thing the movie industry went through, right? Years ago, the movie industry was starting to be, they were looking at regulating it. Why? Because, oh my gosh, you said bitch on a movie. And a kid heard it. I just did it now. But, so the government started talking about regulation. And what happened? The movie industry got together and said, whoa, we don't like this idea, but damn it, we're going to do it ourselves. And they created a rating system. And I'm not debating whether the rating system was good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever, but they built it. And they went to the government and they said, look, we got it. We got this one. Don't worry. We got G, we got PG, we got R, we got X, whatever, right? Or MA, whatever the hell it is. And the government went, oh, okay, cool. Good. Good on you. We don't have to worry about it right now. We'll watch it, make sure it happens okay, but we're done. And then a few years later, Gremlins came out. The scariest movie in the world to 12-year-olds. Because 13 became okay. I don't know where 13 came from, but 13 became okay, right? And people were in an uproar. I remember, right? Tipper Gore, Al Gore's wife, PMRC, right? The Parents Music Resource Center. Somebody said the F word on a tape to live crew. And the movie industry, I know I'm combining things here, but the movie industry said, okay, you guys are pissed about Gremlins. It was a scary movie. That lady on that wheelchair on the stairs went through the window. That was freaky. Right? I like the movie. But, so what did they do? They changed their rating system. They adjusted. They created PG-13. So they could again go to the government and say, whoa, look, we're good. We did something. We found a problem with it. We fixed it. You don't have to. And that's what I think we need to do. I think we need to, as a group, not necessarily this audience, right? But on a wider scale. We need to have some people who, maybe Robert Graham, maybe Dan Kaminsky, people who have their heads up their ass about whether they're allowed to exploit things, right? Get them on it. Get some people like me who, and not necessarily me, but some people who think we shouldn't be doing it, and let's come up with a standard. And then let's regulate ourselves. I think PTES was a good example of that, right? The Pen Testing Execution Standard. I think it started out really well, and then it went a little specific, right? I mean, I read where it was like, you must use this version and model number of a wireless card. I don't want to go that specific, right? But have a standard that we can hold ourselves to so that when Congress says, we need to regulate, we can say, we'll have Dave Kennedy do it. He's there anyways, right? This dude's awesome. But have him say, don't worry about it, we got this, right? Have all of us say, don't worry about it, we got this. Is that going to be easy? No. Because we're a group of people that like to bitch at each other, right? You wore that jacket? Oh my gosh, you thought that was okay? What the heck? You thought Metasploit was written in Python? Ugh. Hell, we can't even decide whether Emacs or VI is better. We can, VI is, but we need to come up with a standard. We need to go out there and say, this is it. Because what's going to happen is it's going to happen to us. That's my opinion. I don't know if my opinion's right, but I think it is. It's going to be a long road. But I think it's one we need to do because, in my opinion, we're going downhill. And we have a problem. Think of the kids. Right? That's always the rallying call against us. Let's use it against them. Because I'll tell you right now, when Brenna, my oldest, was 9, she went to Wolfson's Children's Hospital and had a whole bunch of neurological stuff done because she has an issue. She has OCD. She has a seizure disorder, which is probably more information than you need. About 2 months after she was there, somebody stole all the records from Wolfson's Children's Hospital. So my daughter, who I love dearly, right, now has to spend the rest of her life knowing somebody has her social security number and every bit of information that they needed to become her. And you know what Wolfson's did? They'd offer a year of free credit monitoring. Something she wasn't eligible to sign up for because she was 9, right? And it wouldn't have helped anyways. And our job is to make that better. Our job is to improve the security of the world. And if we can't even decide whether it's okay for us to hack people, how are we ever going to get people to listen to us and make things better? If we don't stop bullying organizations, if we don't start saying, you're vulnerable and you're an idiot and I'm going to tell the world about it because you didn't listen to me, and we throw our little blog tantrum, would that be a blog-trum? I don't know. But we need to. So, I appreciate your time. Are there any questions, comments, things to throw? Doing that last one, yeah, in case, right? Well, in that case, enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much.